The Pediatric Lounge, a podcast taking you behind the door of the physician's lounge to get a deeper insight into just what docs are talking about today. From the clinically profound to the wonderfully routine and everything in between.
Hey, George, it's Tuesday morning and we're back at the podcast. How are you today?
How are you doing today? Today we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Ricardo Morales. He's going to be talking to us on a topic of our series, A Day in the Life. And today it's going to be a day in the life of a pediatrician in Quito, Ecuador. So let's find out how his life is, similar to ours or different. Take it away.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so glad to be here. And in my country, Ecuador is in South America. Most people don't know. And most of the news from my country are not so to get proud of. So,
Dr. Morales is a pediatrician in Quito, Ecuador, and podcaster. He obtained his doctorate in medicine from Pontificia Universidad Católica de Ecuador, and he did his pediatric residency at the same university. He has a master in pediatric emergency medicine from the CEU Central Herrera University in Spain. It's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Morales. We always start the show with, why did you become a pediatrician?
there's two answers for that. First one, why I became a doctor. When I was 10 years old, my mother gets cancer. And that was a terrible notice for a child of 10 years. So I thought that the only way that I could do something about that, it's being a doctor. So one of my dreams was do medicine to cure the cancer of my mother, or also get some help in another families, another child as me suffering because of that notice. So I decided my career about inspired in that event in my life. So after that, when I started my medicine career, I love it, but I don't have the, how can I say, the chemistry between the specialties in adults and in elderly people. I don't have the chemistry with the patients. I don't get involved so much. But when I get involved in pediatrics, it was a dream. I love it. I love the environment. I love the pathologies. I love help children. I get a lot of chemistry with children because I love the same things that children love. I am fanatic of the superheroes, comics, anime, and everything that the children love. So I think I am a child also, and I love a lot of things. In my bag, there's a Avengers poster. So I love a lot of things, and I think that if you are a superhero for your patient, the superheroes protect, the superheroes help, superheroes don't make damage. I love the superheroes for that thing, and I want to, in some way, become a superhero for my patients.
He's a big kid with facial hair.
Yes, he is.
I'm not so tall, so everybody made some fun of that. So also,
And I had the pleasure of visiting Quito, I think maybe once or twice. It's a beautiful city. It's just unbelievable people, but their seafood is just incredible. I didn't ever know what pediatric residency is like in Quito. Is it 3 years like in the U.S. at a children's hospital?
yes, it's a little bit different. When you start your medical career, you started from the beginning. You don't get a college first. You get into the career from the 17, 18 years old. You finish your high school and you start your medical career. So sometimes it's difficult. I was for some years a director from the Residency program of one of the hospitals here. And I was wondering why our careers are so different, and what are our strengths and what are our weakness. First, I think education, superior education, it has to change in my country because we have to get some programs in the basis of our necessity of doctors. Your career, not in the necessity of doctors, how many people you need, or how much is the lack of professionals in health services. So you can get into a private university and do medicine. But about 8 to 9% of the medical graduates get a residency in the first to 5 years before that. So 90% of the medical graduates don't get the residency or their specialty. They get like general doctors, or they do something like working in hospitals, clinics, no more. It's difficult for us to get in the residency. So our opportunities go outside, go to the States, go to Europe, go to Mexico, go to Brazil, Colombia, or Argentina. There is a lot of needs of professional specialties or residency. They need people for the countries. But in our country, it's difficult. The residency programs are very, very limited for us. There's about 4 places to about 4 or 10,000 people who are trying to get into. So it's difficult for us to get there. And also, there's a lot of, how can I say it? You can get your medical specialty, but there's not a place for you in the health system, because our health system, it's very deficient. Our health system has a lot of lack of technology, bad pay, and there's not so much opportunities for us. It's sometimes it's difficult. You have to go opposite to the system in all the places, and it's difficult for a pediatrician also. Being a surgical specialty, do a surgical specialty is better. It sometimes is more available to get into a
the
hospital.
residency itself, is it 3 years? And did you take
3 years, 3 years, and sometimes 3 years and a half. I do 4 years of pediatrics.
Did you take call every third or fourth night at the hospital?
It's crazy. Get a third be on call every 3 or 4 days. If they ever notice, it's crazy. In my case, what I get is you're on call 24 hours, get into the hospital about 6 or 8 hours more, and from the 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. get theoretical classes. And you get burned. Wow. You go one day, you say goodbye to your family at 5 a.m. on Monday, and you get to your home at Wednesday, 3 p.m.
All right, so we did, Herb.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's how it used to be in the U.S.
Yeah. But what happens with like a medical student? So from what I understand, you graduate medical school.
Yes.
And you have to work in some kind of a health clinic or something?
Yes.
That's not residency, right?
There's no residency. There's not an obligation for residency programs. It's difficult for us that. Because
I think what George is asking.
What are you supposed to do?
So I think what George is asking is, in Costa Rica and Colombia, there's something called servicios.
No, yes, rural is the rural service. 1 year is for get your license to do medicine in Ecuador. You go to the rural places. It's a nice experience because you get all your knowledge and you get all your strength being young doctor to do your best. But in the way you look at the deficiency of your health system, our health system, it's not designed for the most of the patients. They can get access to specialties, the most like a general doctor or a family doctor, and not so much. They live in small towns, in the countries, and it's difficult to access to a hospital. It's difficult to them. And also, if you want to go to a specialty and go to the general hospital, you get your dates for a check, for example, or for a MRI or something like that, about 3 to 4 months at the best cases. So it's difficult because you don't have enough places to do exams, enough medical doctors to help in the health system, because it's difficult. Sometimes it's manipulated by political things, political issues in our Latin American countries. It's a reality. I don't want to say that, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Is healthcare, do you have to buy insurance? or is it provided to everybody in the country free by the government?
In theory, you have your health system that is available for everyone because it's free, but you have two kind of health insurances. The health insurance that is an obligation is the health insurance is the national health insurance, Seguro Social, and you can, if you are a worker, you can go to a national insurance hospital, but our health system is not the best. You have the same story like in the free health system. You have the same inequalities, and you don't have enough medical doctors and specialists, and something it's getting worse with the cuts of money from the governments, because there's a lot of things that happen now in my country, and it's difficult. And you have the private insurance, and you can go to the private hospitals. The private hospitals has the most technology afford, and they can afford technology. They can afford some specialists, and a lot of things. But it's difficult for the majority of the population go and pay and a doctor for about $1, or go to maternal insurance that you have to pay the $400, $200. And if you want to go to a hospital because of an appendectomy, you can afford about $2,000, and you have to pay it. And most of the private insurance don't afford the 100%, 70%, 80%.
Dr. Morales, let me ask you something, because I think for people who haven't lived in Latin America, what is the minimum wage for a person working in Ecuador today? Is it $200-$300 a month?
It's about $400, $125 a month.
Okay.
And
if you just make minimum wage and you have to see a private pediatrician twice, that's $120 in a month. So that's 30% of your income.
And you can add the medicines also if the child is in.
Just for your point of reference, the government-owned safety net program for the poor in the U.S. is called Medicaid. And in some places in the U.S., they pay the pediatrician $45 for a visit. But in the U.S., you can't live on $400 a month. It doesn't matter how, even if you're living in the basement of your parents, you just can't afford to live on $400 a month. So the disparity in America is not so dissimilar than in Costa Rica or Colombia or Ecuador. We just know how to hide it better. That's all it is. I have another question. You have a master's in emergency medicine from Spain. In the U.S., we don't have that. We call them fellowships. How long did you spend in Spain training as a pediatric emergency room doctor?
Like about 2 years. In the masters or the fellowships, it's about 2 years. For example, my wife is a specialist in breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is a specialist, and she gets it 2 years also. Are different fellowships, but in my country we have about 2 or 3: neonatology, and in intensive care units, and no more. 2 in pediatric surgical specialty. There's no more in my country for fellowship. If you want to do neurology, cardiology, or something like that, it's your obligation to go outside of your country. It's 2 or 3 years. In most of the cases, they have a depth for about $100,000, and you have to come here to earn about $2,000. It is the average of $2,500 in the rest of the cases to the average of the earn in the public hospital, for example. And you have to work 8 hours in the best case. And also you have to be on call every 4 days, 12 hours every 4 days or every 3 days.
And let me interrupt you again, because we're so different. We're so super specialized in the U.S.
Yes.
That at least when I lived in Costa Rica, the general pediatrician, when you say on call at the hospital, is a general hospital with a maternity ward and a pediatric ward, not a subspecialty. And you're there for the night, and anything that comes into the emergency room, you have to attend to. Any C-section, any bad deliveries, any newborn resuscitations, any admissions you have to take care of. If you were a intensivist or a neonatologist.
Yes, in some hospital, there's the reality. I am telling you in the best cases that are hospital in big cities like Quito, Guayaquil, Cuenca. If you go outside in the small cities in the Amazon zone, in the coast, in the Sierra, also you have small hospitals that have only general doctors and pediatrician on call, but one or two. There's not so much have a subspecialist. And if you want a subspecialist, you have not so much, and they have their these days. The schedule is about 4 hours, 8 hours in the best cases. So if you are in the Amazon country, in the Amazon zone, you have to wait to go to another big hospital.
So now that you can return from Spain, are you an attending at a pediatric emergency room in Quito or Guayaquil or
I was started being a professor in a medicine university. I teach in care in the simulation laboratory. It was a lovely part of my life doing some being a teacher. It's my first work as a pediatrician, being a teacher. After that, I come to a public hospital. 2 years I was in a public hospital. I do emergency 1 year, and after that I was moved to an intensive care unit doing on call because there's not so much pediatricians. So you have to move when to the place they need. So you have to be moved. So I love pediatric emergency. After that go to a private hospital. I managed the emergency. I was the chief emergency room, but I get a nice team of pediatricians that we are doing that in small hospitals and clinics in Quito. We are moving about 3 or 4 hospitals in emergency and try to change a little bit the things in that places. Get the people more available to be attended by a pediatrician or by a general doctor. And also we can do something for the children because most of the hospitals are not created to children, only for adults. So it's a cold area and emergency, and you give a sticker, you give the children a balloon and get the smile there. It's lovely. It's lovely. And they are doing something for somebody. Because I have a story about that. When I was a child, I fall and I let my head to the ground. So I go to the hospital and I have to go to a tomography. And I was afraid about that. I was crazy afraid about that. I don't know who was the person there. I didn't know if the radiologist, the nurse, or a doctor. But he told me, be brave. I'm going to be here with you. And those words helped me to know that I could do that. And after that, it was a story that changed my life. And all my patients that are in pain or are afraid about something, I told the same quote because they need to be brave, but they need support also.
Yeah. And then you also have a Spanish podcast. What's the name of that?
My Spanish podcast is OS Pediatra. OS Pediatra. It's with my wife. We do a lot of, we live some sad stories as parents and deliveries, breastfeeding. We don't have enough support for that. And in that basis, we want to change that for another families. We want the parents, the mothers who want to give breastfeeding to their children can be supported to do that. And have the chance to do that, because here we have a lot of influence. Believe me, a lot of influence from the pharmaceutical industry. There's a lot of influence, a lot. So yeah, most of the deliveries, the mother and the baby are separated each other, 8 hours, 20 hours. They give formula. Don't even then they ask or don't ask the mother. They don't give the support to do breastfeeding, and it's not the first option do breastfeeding. So they give only formula, no more. It's
Wow.
difficult for the mothers because they want to be here in Latin America. We are so familiar. We are so close between each other. We are caliente. Our blood is
Hot.
It's hot, and we want to be in the control of everything, and we want to be close to our families, to relatives. Sorry, to our relatives, and to be close to our family, and more to a mother who was pregnant 9 months and wants to be with their her baby at least from the beginning. And in that podcast, we talk about some myths, and we get all the myths. I didn't get the word exactly. We get out the myths for the mothers, and we give a lot of evidence. It's because we have the myth of because I am a doctor, I have all the reason because I am a doctor, and period. And that's not the truth. We have to give evidence to the families to give them the best advice, because in some cases they believe that the experience it's all. The evidence it's nothing because it works for me for about 3 decades, 4 decades, and it's okay. No, it's not the truth. Because I am a doctor, I have to give the best information to my patients and do the best for them. Because if I do something that is not allowed now, I am not doing the best for them. I am hurt my patients.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful podcast and it's a wonderful mission you're doing there. Where can people find you if they want to listen to your podcast in Spanish?
I am working in that. I am going to publish it in Spotify, but we are going to we want a lot of interaction with our community. So we don't save the podcast in Instagram. In Instagram, I have a community of almost 200,000 people, followers, and it's nice to be in touch with them. So because of that, we don't save the live podcast, and we are going to publish videos from the best of the most important things that we do in the podcast.
It's not a true podcast in that you can't go to Spotify and find the episodes.
Yes, we have 2 episodes. We are going to upload that.
Okay.
We have, in the pandemic, we have a program called the same, SOS Pediatra, in the radio. And it was a lovely thing because we have a lot of questions and it helps us a lot. And the touch with the people is very important for us. That's why I am in Instagram, I am in the social media, because we have a lot of mothers that communicate between social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and also X. And we are giving information to the mothers to don't get in the midst of our living and daily living in Latin America.
And so you think that 200,000 followers on Instagram are mostly in Ecuador? Or do you think it leads over to Colombia and Peru? And
yes, I watched that. Most of them, like 80%, are in Ecuador. 10% are in the United States, and like 5 or 2% being Colombia, Argentina, Chile, and Brazil.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
A lot.
That's a lot of people, right?
Yes, it is nice because all the people that are watching us is not only mothers, our parents also are journalists. And I have some interviews in the States. It's nice to help the Hispanic community in the United States. It's lovely to be there. And with in Unidom, Latina is another channel, local channel in Los Angeles. And also we have a lot of interviews here in radios, TV stations, and podcasts from a lot of people Now is the month of autism, and it's not my specialty, but we are trying to get the rights for people with autism, all the neurodiversity. And it's a nice job, not only get into the person, going is not only the person cares patient, it's communicates. I think one of the important, I think as a must for all the doctors is communicate to the community. It's prevention. All the people have to know about prevention and how to do that with your patients. And your patient is not the people who comes to your office. Your patient is the people who are watching you or hearing you, who are thinking about what are you doing for improve the health of the children, the elderly. If you are a surgeon, if you are whatever specialty you are. It's important for us to communicate and get the knowledge and the ability to communicate, and also the ability to be good in social media. Because most of
You seem to be a busy guy.
don't care about that.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. We'll tag your Instagram account. You do a wonderful job there, and we'll
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. This has been a production of the Pediatric Lounge. On the show notes, you will find links to our co-host and other important notes, as well as a timetable of the topics discussed today. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave us a great review, as it helps us greatly. In the meantime, we will see you next week. The Pediatric Lounge. The conversations are not intended as medical advice, and the opinions expressed are solely those of the host and the guest.